What is going on, you guys? I hope you guys are having a great October, and I hope you guys have a great Halloween. Today, I am finally going to be talking about my favorite Halloween sequel in the entire franchise, and also one of my favorite movies of all time, and that is Halloween H20, 20 years later. This movie was created after the kind of disappointing Thorn trilogy that happened. This movie takes place right after the first two Halloween films. It takes place 20 years later. Laurie Strode has gone away to California to get away from all the horrors that she witnessed on that Halloween night in the first two films. She's now become like the head mistress of this prestigious school where her son goes to, and she is still having trauma. Like, she has nightmares. She really has a drinking problem, and Michael Myers has now come back after 20 years to see if he can finish the job. And I gotta tell you, I fucking love this movie. I am a big fan of Halloween H20. This movie does have its fans, but it also has some people who are pretty disappointed with it, saying that it doesn't quite work for them, and that's okay. But for me, this movie works in almost every sense. Now, I have a laundry list of positives for this movie, and I'm just going to get right into them, and then we'll get into my negatives pretty soon, which there's only a couple. But starting off with what I really liked about Halloween H20 is that I absolutely love Jamie Lee Curtis's back for this movie, because they not only brought her back for this film, but they also brought her back as a good character, because they actually made her a flawed character. They made her to where she's not like the Sarah Connor version that we got in Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills. She's actually a broken character in this movie. Even though she is broken in there, she's still terrified of Michael Myers. Like, she doesn't want to see him again. And she flew to a different country, or flew to a different state to get away from him. And I think that actually works for him. And the fact that she still has nightmares after 20 years, and the fact that she, like, binge drinks sometimes to help relieve the stress and the pain that she went through, I think works really well with this movie. I am a big fan of that version of the character. In fact, I actually like this version of Laurie Strode more than any other film in the entire franchise with her. More than that. So yeah. So if anything, the character of Laurie Strode here is practically perfect, and I adore it. Another positive that I will give this movie, I do think a lot of the side characters work. I think that her son, who was also in a movie called The Faculty, I don't remember his name quite right now, but I do think that he does pretty well in this movie, although his hair is kind of messed up and it's always in question during the film, because I think he wore like a beanie a lot, and his hair always looks like he just woke up with bedhead and he never styled it. So, I mean, it's kind of funny, but that kind of adds to maybe the character, how he doesn't really care too much. And I do think that this movie is also very iconic because it contains Jamie Lee Curtis's mother, who was also in the movie Psycho, also plays in this movie, and she even drives the iconic car from that movie as well, from Psycho. So if you think about it, this movie kind of has some Psycho references, which I think does work for it. Even though I'm not typically a huge fan of Psycho right now, maybe I'll watch it in the future and like it more. But for now, not typically a big fan of that movie, but I think it's worth noting. Also, I do think I like the location that this movie chose to go for, because no part of this movie takes place in Haddonfield. The first part takes place in some other little town in Illinois, and then after like the first 15 minutes, it cuts all the way to Summer Glen, California. And a lot of people gave the movie crap for that part, that it doesn't take place in Haddonfield. If you think about it, it makes sense that Laurie Strode would leave, because she didn't want to be anywhere near all that trauma that she faced in the first two films. So the fact that she left and went on to pursue something else and get away from the trauma that she witnessed with Michael Myers, it makes sense why she would leave. And so I get it. I actually like that about this movie. I love the change of location. I do think the school works very well. It's a new location for Michael Myers to wreak havoc in, and I do think it works very well for the movie. So yeah, another big positive. Another positive I will give it, and surprisingly this one is a positive, while a lot of people say, oh, it doesn't quite work for me. I think Chris Durand as Michael Myers is actually really good here. He's not the best Michael Myers, but I do think he does really well with the character. He's probably third place for me, behind, actually maybe fourth place, no, because I do think Nick Castle is better, and I do think that James Jude Courtney is better, and I do think that the guy from, and yeah, I do think that the guy from Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is better. The guy from Rob Zombie's Halloween films. Comment below what his name is, because I can't remember it off the top of my head, but I do think that he does pretty well. I do think that Chris Durand does really good in this movie as Michael Myers, even though people say that he's too short and he carries a knife that's obviously too big for him. I honestly think he does pretty well with the character. You can tell that he's having fun with it, and you can tell that he does care about doing this movie, and I do think that it is. So, another big positive that I can give to this movie as well, one that I'm surprised worked so well, was LL Cool J as the security guard at the school where Laurie Strode is in charge of. Because LL Cool J plays a security guard who likes to write romantic fiction for his wife, and he reads it to her over the phone, and it's like he really wants to do this, but he also does the security job to make money. And to be honest, this could have been the most annoying character of the movie, kind of like Buster Rhymes is in Halloween Resurrection, which we will get to. I think that LL Cool J might be my favorite character of the movie because he is so likable and he's not trying to overtake anything. He doesn't steal every scene that he's in, but he's very like down to earth, and he's very quiet of a character, and I do think that he does very well with what he's given. He's not trying to do more than what he's told, and I think that he kept it to where he should have, and that's what I love about his character. He even has a couple funny moments in the movie to where like after the whole final battle scene at the very end of the movie when Laurie Strode is about to officially take like the final stab to Michael Myers, and then like after they're outside, he's like, "Baby, I'm gonna write a romantic thriller." It's like, oh, okay, I like you, man. He's funny, so he's a pretty funny character, and I think he works really well. Again, I do think another thing that works about this film is I absolutely love the ending of this movie. For me, this should have been the final Halloween film we've ever gotten, especially for this continuation of these two characters, Laurie Strode and Michael Myers. Because if you think about it, the way this ends, this could have been the perfect ending for this entire franchise, unless Rob Zombie decided to still come out with remakes. But in a way, this ending works so well because if you think about it, right after after everyone thinks that Michael Myers is dead, Laurie Strode takes the van, is not convinced. She drives it away, out in the woods, and then she crashes the van. Michael Myers is pinned against a tree branch in the car, and then he's like reaching out at her, and then she almost tries to touch his hand, and before they can get too close, she has one moment where she looks right at him, and she chops his head off, and it's fucking awesome. I love the way that ended. If this movie was the final Halloween film we ever got, I would be okay with that because this ending was just too perfect for them to continue it. But for some reason, they decided to continue with another one, and we'll get into that one pretty soon. Resurrection. Why? But yeah, so all in all, those are all my positives that I have with Halloween H20. Now, I do have a couple of things that I don't like about the movie, and they're very minor if you think about it. Actually, one's minor, one's kind of major, but still, they don't really take too much away from the movie, in my opinion. But I will start off with this one. This is like a small nitpick I have with the film. For me, the final fight scene with Laurie Strode and Michael Myers at the very end, before the whole van sequence at the end, I think it's a little bit too short. I think if they added an extra 2 minutes onto it, it could have been perfect. But for me, just a little bit too short. I wish they added just a little bit more to it. Now, it is good the way it is. I can live with it. It's not something that I'm like, oh my god, just add another 2 minutes onto it, please. And I'm like, no, I'm just like, okay. They could have added a little bit more, but I still enjoy it. I still give it a good positive review. So that's my one minor nitpick. The biggest negative, and trust me, this is a negative that everybody has about this movie, and trust me, I get it, you guys. This is something that I don't like about the movie either. If you pay attention to this movie, if you're paying attention really hard, there are 4 different masks that Michael Myers uses throughout the movie. And I gotta tell you, they show. One mask that they use that is by far the worst mask of the whole franchise. And luckily, it's only on screen for 1 second. After that 1 second, you're like, okay, you never have to see it again. It's never mentioned again. Thank God. They actually put a CGI mask on Michael Myers. I don't get what it was going through their head when they did that. I don't get why they did it in the first place. It's stupid. It's like a big middle finger to people who liked the iconic mask of Michael Myers. It's like, okay, the mask is the cheapest thing about the movie you can make. So instead of going out to get a new one, because I think they said they lost it at some point and then they couldn't find it, so they were like, okay, let's just make a CGI one. It's like, you couldn't get a new one or make a new one or at least not show the mask. Like, you could have not shown Michael Myers' face. You could have not even shown the mask at all. You could have just had Michael Myers kill the person he's in front of, like, without even showing his head. Like, you could have shown, like, the like the back of his head or something like that. That would have worked. That would have worked better than this, let me tell you. Another mask they use is called the KGB mask, I think it's what it's called. And this is one that was shown in the trailers when the movie came out back in 1998. And this one is better, but it looks like an alien because the eye holes are cut out in a weird way. It looks like an alien face, and it looks too clean and too like roundish, and so it doesn't quite work for me. So overall, yeah, and that's in a couple of shots in the movie, a couple of them. Another mask they did use was also the Halloween 6 mask. They brought the mask from Halloween 6 back into this movie, and you can see it throughout the beginning of the film, like within like the first 10 minutes when he's going after like the nurse, which I forgot to mention that too. Another positive I have, okay, guys, I'm learning this with you guys as I go along. The nurse character who was in the first Halloween film with Donald Pleasance's character, with Dr. Loomis, she actually was a very smart character in this movie because when she gets to her house at the very beginning and sees that it's trashed up and there's no electricity, she does what most characters in horror films don't do. She instead of going into the house, asking if anyone's there and then getting killed, she actually runs to the next door neighbor's house and tries to ask them for help. So if you think about it, that's one thing I love about this movie is that character made a great decision, and she actually does it twice. She makes that same decision twice, and I fucking love it. So another positive I forgot to mention. So yeah, you can add that to the list. And so yeah, so after the Halloween 6 mask, which I did like in this movie more than Halloween 6 itself, there was one mask that is mainly used throughout the movie, and for me, this is actually personally my favorite mask of this movie. It's not my favorite mask of all time, but it is my favorite of this movie, and that's the actual H2O mask, where Michael Myers' eyes are clearly shown, and he looks like this the whole time. I do admit, people say that's kind of boring, and people say it might add like more of a human side to the character, but overall, when you have to see Michael Myers' eyes the whole time, it doesn't make him look as threatening. It makes him look more like a guy wearing a mask, and not just like a dark presence. So overall, those are my only negatives with this movie. I genuinely love H2O. I think it's my favorite Halloween sequel of the franchise so far. Unless Halloween Ends manages to top it. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But guys, thank you very much for checking this out. Look forward to my next review, which will be for Halloween Resurrection. Got a lot to say about that movie. And maybe there will be some stuff I'll like about it, but we'll see. So guys, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys later on.